and exactly what it was supposed to be. I would say it's so difficult being a director in some instances because
Blake Lively has been caught red-handed and not in the glamorous paparazzi style, clutching a Starbucks and pretending she didn't summon them. No, this time it's entirely legal. It's dirty, it's pathetic, and it's utterly brazen. Here's the story. She believed she could quietly operate through a fake company, and I do mean fake, to run a clandestine legal maneuver. The sort of thing you'd expect from a Bond villain, not the actress who played a fashion blogger in a thriller. Except this company, it's not some secret agency. It's not even real. It's a broom cupboard, literally. The company's name is Sounds mysterious, doesn't it? Like a startup dabbling in AI or crypto scams. But no, legal filings show Van Zen has done precisely one thing in its entire history. Order some furniture for a tailor. Swift video, probably a beanbag chair and a cursed lamp. After that, nothing. No business filings, no tax records, not even a functioning website. And yet, Blake's team used this company to subpoena personal data from a woman called Jennifer Abel without any discovery rights, without a formal case, without warning, nothing, just a fake lawsuit, a fake company, and stolen data. And it wasn't even a clever fake. Van Zen is so non-existent that Abel's lawyers literally asked the court, "Can you please confirm whether this is a real company or just someone's utility closet in Manhattan?" You know you failed at espionage when the judge is Googling your business license and finds a mop leaning against the door. So what did Blake want so badly that she had to invent a fantasy LLC? Text messages, iCloud data, private files belonging to Abel, allegedly taken without her knowledge and handed to Blake by a woman named Stephanie Jones, who just so happens to be directly connected to the fake company. It's not subtle. It's like Ryan Reynolds breaking into someone's house and claiming, no, it's not a crime, it's a performance piece for Deadpool 4. Just because you call it legal doesn't make it so. Worse still, the subpoena wasn't used to obtain the information. It was used to cover up the fact that they already had it. That's the game here. They wanted it to look above board. Oh yes, this is all routine. We sent a legal document through our broom cupboard and only now received these files we definitely didn't steal 2 weeks ago. Even more brazenly, Blake's publicist, Leslie Sloan, was reportedly boasting that Abel would be sued because Sloan had seen her private messages, not heard about them, but seen them. On the same day, Jones allegedly extracted data from Abel's phone. What does that tell you? It wasn't just a setup. It was a cover-up, and a shoddy one at that. This wasn't a legal strategy. It was a high school group project with wigs and fake names. The sort of thing that only looks clever if you're wealthy, delusional, and convinced that your perfume line counts as a defense strategy. Blake Lively didn't simply attempt to bring down Jennifer Abel. She tried to rewrite the entire concept of due process and replace it with a mop and a fake address. And astonishingly, that was only the beginning. What followed reads like a drunken parody of Law and Order, Cleaning Supplies Unit. After Blake and her associates used Van Zen, the now infamous janitor's fantasy, to file a subpoena, Abel's legal team did the most reasonable thing any adult with a functioning brain would do. They asked for proof that Van Zen was a real company. You'd imagine that to be a straightforward request. Something like, could we see your business license? Perhaps a utility bill, anything besides a faded IKEA receipt. But no, nothing, because brace yourself, there may not be any proof at all. No tax filings, no legitimate address that isn't doubling as a storage cupboard. No staff, just an empty, dusty room and a questionable logo someone clearly knocked together on Canva at 2 in the morning. Abel's lawyers didn't simply ask politely either. They had to file a motion compelling Van Zen to prove it wasn't an elaborate scam. You know, things have gone completely off the rails when solicitors are standing in federal court essentially saying, "Your Honor, we'd like confirmation that we are not, in fact, arguing with a literal broom cupboard." Van Zen's response: silence. Total radio silence. No emails, no explanations. They just vanished, much like their business operations. Meanwhile, Blake's legal circle pretended this was perfectly normal, as if every respectable company is run through a shell entity that is more shell than company. It's the legal equivalent of turning up to court in an invisibility cloak and saying, "Trust me, I'm here." Eventually, the court insisted that Van Zen provide the original subpoena, any materials received, and at least something resembling proof that they weren't simply a legal sock puppet manufactured for Blake and her husband's revenge fantasy. So what did Van Zen do? They agreed to hand over a handful of selected documents, just not the crucial ones. Specifically, they refused to disclose communications between Blake, Stephanie Jones, and Van Zen. The correspondence that could expose the entire operation is staged. It's the subpoena equivalent of saying, "You can see my browser history, just not the last 10 searches." Let's pause. This is a company that has achieved exactly one thing, ordering furniture, yet somehow found the enthusiasm to plunge into a high-profile legal dispute to retrieve stolen text messages. Now they're pretending that producing their own emails is too monumental a task. Even the court is visibly suspicious. Judges aren't fools. They're reading these motions thinking, So this company agreed to everything except the one request that could prove the whole thing was fabricated. Nothing screams innocence quite like selective cooperation. Abel's team has now dropped politeness entirely. They're demanding the full trail, texts, emails, every puff of smoke exchanged between Blake, Jones, and this ghost company. Because, let's be frank, if you need a fake business just to appear legal, you were never legal to begin with. It's as if Blake Lively and her circle watched one episode of Suits and thought, yes, I can absolutely do that. Yes, I can absolutely do that. Spoiler alert, you can't. The legal world isn't impressed. In fact, they're laughing. Blake didn't merely blunder. She got caught trying to hide it behind the legal equivalent of a cardboard cutout. Each missing document only makes the coffin lid drop lower. If Van Zandt truly is nothing more than a name on paper and a phone number that forwards to a Taco Bell, the entire scheme collapses. And who's left holding it up? Blake, Flaming, Lively. Now here's where the mess goes from suspicious to downright incriminating. Blake Lively didn't merely weaponize a fake company. She didn't merely ghost the court when asked whether her broom cupboard had a fax machine. She allegedly obtained Jennifer Abel's private messages before the subpoena even existed. Let me repeat that slowly in case Blake's publicist is tuning in. She got the data before any legal permission to obtain the data existed. That's not a technical hiccup, that is the crime. The timeline is so disastrous it's almost comical. Actually, no, it is comical. In a tragic oh dear, she's genuinely this foolish way. Court documents state that Stephanie Jones, Blake's alleged accomplice, downloaded the entirety of Abel's phone data, texts, iCloud backups, private conversations meant for lawyers, family, friends, and on that same day, Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, was reportedly already boasting that they had dirt. Not hypothetically, she was allegedly referencing specific text messages. She couldn't even wait. She just had to spill the tea, except the kettle hadn't even been switched on. This isn't clever. It's cartoon villain logic. You don't rob a bank and immediately post a selfie in the vault before the alarm sounds. But that's essentially what they did. They had the messages before the legal process, so they needed a cover story. Enter Van Zandt, the mop company with a law degree. They backdated the process, manufactured a subpoena, and pretended the messages were acquired legally. And even then, even with the fake paperwork, they forgot to include the attachments. If you're going to forge something, at least attach the full PDF. Amateurs. It's like a murder suspect writing a fake alibi and forgetting to check the time. Oh no, I was home at 8 p.m. really. Your forged Uber receipt says 9:45. Brilliant. Abel's legal team is piecing everything together. The sudden appearance of Van Zandt, the missing attachments, the bragging publicist, and the perfectly matched timing between the stolen phone data and Blake's team acting as though they'd already read it. It's not a coincidence, it's premeditated. And if anyone genuinely believes Blake Lively didn't know what was happening, be serious. This wasn't a rogue intern going off script. It was coordinated, calculated, sloppy, absolutely, but intentional from top to bottom. And here's where it becomes even more humiliating. There's now suspicion that Blake never intended to sue anyone at all. The entire operation, the fake subpoena, the broom cupboard company, the data grab may have been nothing more than a scheme to frighten Jennifer Abel, a way to gather dirt and wield it privately, which would have been pathetic enough on its own. But then Blake got greedy. She read the messages. She got excited. She went public. And now she's neck deep in a lie so enormous it could crater her entire career. Because once it's proven that the subpoena was fake and the data was accessed illegally, the whole narrative collapses. She's not the victim. She's not the whistleblower. She's the one holding the lockpick and insisting it's a key. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni hasn't said a word. No PR tours, no dramatic statements. He simply sat back and watched as Blake and her team walked straight into the trap they laid for someone else. She played herself. And the worst part, she genuinely thought she was being clever. But clever people don't leave behind a breadcrumb trail of forged subpoenas, stolen data, and a fake company that can't even manage to keep its Google listing active. No, Blake Lively didn't pull off some masterful legal maneuver. She executed the most embarrassing self-own in celebrity legal history, and unbelievably, we're only halfway through this circus. This is the point where the adults enter the room, while Blake Lively is busy role-playing as a legal mastermind, using forged documents and a shell company that probably shares office space with a vending machine. Justin Baldoni's legal team is dismantling the entire house of lies one brick at a time. And they're not shouting. They're not releasing sources close to the situation statements. They're simply filing documents, real ones, with actual evidence, and every submission makes Blake's side look more like a troupe of clowns trying to sneak into a courtroom through the janitor's entrance. Let's revisit the timeline. Baldoni's team pointed out the glaringly obvious: if the data was taken before the subpoena existed, then the subpoena wasn't about justice. It was about covering tracks. That's not law. That's obstruction. That's panic wearing a pantsuit. They highlighted that Van Zandt wasn't used to obtain information legally, but to pretend the information had been obtained legally after the fact. It's like someone breaking into your house, nicking your television, and then posting you a receipt a week later. See, totally official. Sure, you printed that on a library computer, mate. So what do Baldoni's team do? They file a motion that doesn't merely poke holes in Van Zen's existence. It holds the entire company up to the light and basically asks, is this even real? And the court listens. Because this is no longer about a stolen phone backup. It's about someone using the American legal system like a hand sanitizer dispenser at a hotel gym, just pressing buttons and hoping it makes them look clean. And here's the kicker. Van Zen starts to fold. Quietly, of course. They agreed to hand over a stack of documents. They concede that, yes, all right, the subpoena is relevant. They'll provide those materials. But not that one. Not request number 9, the one that includes the emails, the texts, the communications between Blake, Stephanie Jones, and Van Zen, the one piece of evidence that could expose the whole conspiracy. So they hand over the easy bits, furniture receipts, maybe an expired office lease. But they're still gripping that email chain like it's the sacred scroll of guilt. Wonder why? Let's be honest, if that chain proves Blake knew this was a setup, if it shows she orchestrated a fake subpoena using a non-functional shell company just to rifle through Abel's private messages before launching her own lawsuit, that's not just bad press, that's criminal exposure. And Blake Lively does not thrive in mess. Her entire career has revolved around a clean, controlled, picture-perfect image. But now that image is cracking, and Baldoni's lawyers are swinging a legal sledgehammer straight at it. They're exposing everything. The Phantom Company, the backdated subpoena, the giddy publicist bragging about stolen messages, and suddenly the judge isn't looking at Abel as the problem anymore. They're looking at Blake, and she's squirming, because you can't sweep this under the rug when the rug itself is part of Exhibit A. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni is just standing there quietly sipping herbal tea, watching the flames rise. He didn't lie. He didn't need a shell company. He didn't need a staged legal stunt. He simply let the truth walk in and do the heavy lifting. And now the court is finally waking up to the scheme. They're asking questions about Blake, about Van Zen, about why Ryan Reynolds' name appears in a subpoena from a company that doesn't exist on paper or in reality. This isn't a case anymore. It's a tick. And Blake, she's no longer the girl next door. She's the girl who brought a mop to a knife fight and still managed to slip on it. By this point, the whole scheme is unraveling like a cheap wig in a hurricane. Blake Lively isn't in control. She's in freefall. And the worst part is that she did it to herself. Let's talk about Leslie Sloan, Blake's publicist and arguably the most prematurely smug person involved in this catastrophe. Remember her? She's the one who allegedly bragged about reading Jennifer Abel's stolen texts before any legal discovery had even begun. It's like charging onto the pitch before a match starts, celebrating a goal, and announcing to the crowd that you've already stolen the ball, slashed the referee's tires, and you're now holding a giant neon sign saying, "I definitely cheated." Brilliant strategy, Leslie. The bragging wasn't just tone deaf, it was evidence. It confirmed the timeline. She was out there smirking about messages that had only just been illegally pulled from Abel's phone before the fake subpoena was even generated. And she didn't whisper it behind closed doors. She said it loudly enough that half of Hollywood heard it. And now that brag is exhibit material. So what does Blake Lively do when this entire mess starts catching fire? She panics. The desperation is palpable. First, her lawyer, Ezra Hudson, attempts damage control by filing a letter, a very serious letter that insists, oh no, everything was perfectly fine. We even sent the subpoena to Wayfair back in May, interestingly, because according to them, the documents had already been forwarded by then. The only problem, the actual subpoena was missing attachments. They sent it without the subpoena itself. It's like posting someone a cake and forgetting to include the cake. We're just clearing things up, they said. Oh, and by the way, it's all Stephanie Jones's fault. Classic, now they're throwing each other under the bus. Blake blaming Jones. Jones probably wondering if the mop in the Van Zen office needs legal representation. Meanwhile, Ezra's filing letters without attachments, as if it's his first week on the job and he's using Hotmail. You couldn't make this up if you tried. It's like a low-budget heist film where the getaway driver forgot to fill up the car. And everyone's arguing in the car park as the police arrive. And still, none of it helps Blake. Each new twist only proves what Baldoni's legal team has been saying all along. This was a sham operation. From the fake subpoena to the broom cupboard business to the early access bragging, it's a long, dumb chain of red flags waving at the court screaming, "Please arrest me now." Here's the real kicker. Behind the scenes, Blake didn't even plan to file a lawsuit at first. She reportedly told people, even reporters, that she never wanted to go public. Her aim was to collect dirt, use it as leverage, and quietly whisper it into the right ears to sabotage Baldoni and the Wayfair team. But once she saw those messages, once her team got the iCloud data, she couldn't resist. She had the matches, so she lit the fire. The problem, she forgot to check if she was standing in a pile of gasoline. Now she's cornered. The court wants answers. The publicist is silent. Jones is probably lawyering up. And Blake is watching her carefully curated image go up in smoke. Not because anyone exposed her, but because she exposed herself. This is the end of the road. The publicist has gone quiet. The fake company has been unmasked. The subpoena is a flaming joke. And Blake Lively, she's standing in the ashes, clutching a hairbrush, pretending it's a microphone. Blake thought she was being clever. She imagined this operation stealing private messages, forging legal backdoors, throwing subpoenas around like confetti would end with her as the hero. A standing ovation, another magazine cover, maybe a shampoo commercial narrated by Ryan Reynolds if he wasn't too busy trolling Hugh Jackman online. But no, it ends in humiliation. Not just for her, but for everyone involved in this clown parade. Blake Lively didn't just orchestrate a scam. She orchestrated the most obvious scam in Hollywood history. Even a reality TV star would be too embarrassed to attempt this. Let's recap. She illegally obtained private data before filing a lawsuit. She used a fake company, one that hasn't filed anything in years and may not share space with a mop bucket, to file a sham subpoena after the fact. Her publicist brags openly, oblivious that she has just admitted everything in front of the industry. Then the legal letters roll in, sloppy, missing attachments, blaming everyone but Blake, Jones, Van Zen. A technical error. You know who doesn't make those mistakes? Justin Bell. He didn't need a fake company. He didn't need a publicist yelling into the void. He simply watched while the evidence piled up. His legal team.com, precise and focused, dismantled the scheme one document at a time. They proved the subpoena timeline was fake. They exposed the sham company. They showed that the communications Blake claimed were hers to access had actually been stolen and retroactively disguised as legal. They turned the courtroom, the stage Blake tried to control, into a mirror she cannot escape. Now Hollywood is watching, brands are watching, studios are watching, and they do not like what they see. Blake Lively is no longer the victim. She is no longer the strong woman standing up for justice. She is the woman who tried to rewrite reality with a ghost company and shoddy PR, and everyone sees straight through it. You don't earn a redemption arc when you burn the script. You don't get applause when you plant evidence with a mop and call it justice. And you certainly don't earn sympathy when you steal private messages, brag about it, and then play dumb in court. What Blake tried to do was destroy Justin Baldoni's reputation, his work, his company, his name. But all she achieved was destroying herself. The scheme failed. The court is circling. The lawyers are sharpening their teeth. And Blake Lively, she's the punchline. She didn't just fall from grace. She jumped off a cliff wearing a blindfold stitched from subpoenas and hubris. And Ryan, oh, buddy, you might want to pause the sarcasm because this isn't funny anymore. Your name appeared in a subpoena filed by a ghost company your wife may have controlled. You're not Deadpool here. You're just another man caught in a lie too large for jokes. So here we are. Blake thought she was going to destroy Justin Baldoni, but all she did was light a match in a broom cupboard. And now she's standing in the middle of the fire, wondering why no one is coming to save her. Wondering why no one is coming to save her.